The Galactic Council chamber sat silent as Ambassador Lucas Hayes waited for his turn to speak. Around him, representatives from 17 different alien species occupied their designated positions. The chamber itself was ancient, built thousands of years ago by civilizations whose names have been forgotten long before humans ever looked up at the stars. Every wall gleamed with polished metal, and the air was climate-controlled to accommodate the different atmospheric needs of the council members. Lucas was a tall man with dark hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had been studying the other ambassadors for 3 years, trying to understand their cultures, their values, and what made them tick. It was not easy work. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 3 years ago, after finally developing faster-than-light travel. To Lucas, joining this council had felt like a moment of triumph. Humanity had reached the stars. They had proven themselves ready to stand among the great civilizations of the galaxy. But as he sat in this chamber today, Lucas was beginning to understand that triumph had been premature. The Xerillian ambassador was speaking now, his voice dripping with mockery. His species looked something like a mix between a squid and a scorpion, with long tentacles and a hard exoskeleton. The Xerillians had been spacefaring for over 10,000 years. They looked at humans the way an adult might look at a child playing with toys. The humans, the Xerillian said, making his words slow and careful, as if speaking to someone who could not understand simple concepts, wish to expand their trade routes into Sector 7. This is, of course, impossible. Sector 7 contains some of the most dangerous trade lanes in known space. The human species has not existed in space for even 4 years. Their ships are crude and outdated. Their navigation systems are primitive. We would be sending them to certain death. Several other ambassadors made sounds that might have been laughter. The Alterian collective representative, a being made of crystalline forms that shifted and changed constantly, chimed in with what sounded like bells and wind chimes. Lucas did not need translation software to understand the meaning. They were amused by the idea of humans attempting to navigate dangerous space. I have reviewed the specifications of human vessels, the Krillian Dominion, representative said in a flat voice that suggested he found the entire topic boring. The Krillians were tall, bipedal creatures with gray skin and enormous eyes. They had conquered more space than any other civilization in the known galaxy, and they made sure everyone knew it. The human ships contain technology that we have been using for hundreds of years. They are not advanced. They are not even interesting. Why do we waste time discussing whether these newcomers deserve better trade routes? Lucas felt his jaw tighten. He wanted to stand up and argue. He wanted to point out that Earth had developed all of this technology in just 50 years. He wanted to remind them that humans had gone from inventing the airplane to achieving spaceflight in under 200 years. He wanted to tell them that humanity was not slow or stupid. They were hungry. They were adaptable. They were capable of things these arrogant aliens could not even imagine. But he said nothing. He kept his face calm and neutral, the way he had been trained. This was diplomacy. This was how it worked in the Galactic Council. You listened to insults. You smiled. You tried to find common ground with species that openly mocked you. The voting began an hour later. The question was simple. Should Earth be allowed to expand trade routes beyond their current restricted zones? Or should they remain confined to 3 basic routes that had been allocated to them when they joined? The Council voted 14-2 in favor of restrictions. Only the small, Venerian collective and a neutral station representative voted for expansion. Everyone else voted to keep humanity confined. Keep them small. Keep them limited. Keep them in their place. As Lucas watched the results appear on the display screen, he understood something crucial. This was not about safety. This was not about technology or capability. This was about arrogance. These species had been in power for so long that they could not imagine anything changing. They saw humans as something to be controlled, not negotiated with. They saw Earth as a minor problem that could be solved by simply saying no. The session ended, and the council members began to file out of the chamber. Several of them ignored Lucas completely. A few nodded to him in what might have been pity. The Xyrillian ambassador made a gesture that translated roughly as, "Better luck next time, little one." Lucas did not go to his quarters. Instead, he walked through the long corridors of the station until he reached the private communication chamber. He entered his access code and waited for the secure connection to Earth to establish. Admiral Victoria Martin appeared on the screen moments later. She was a woman in her 60s with gray streaking her dark hair and a face that had been hardened by years of military service. She had commanded Earth's space forces for 2 decades, and she understood power in ways that diplomats sometimes did not. "They voted against us," Lucas said simply. 14-2. "We are not allowed to expand." The Admiral was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and controlled, but there was something dangerous underneath it. "Tell me exactly what happened." Lucas told her everything. He described the mocking tone of the Xyrillian ambassador. He explained how the Krillians had described human technology as outdated and uninteresting. He shared every insult, every dismissive comment, every gesture that had been designed to make it clear that Earth was not welcome here. Admiral Martin listened without interrupting. When Lucas finished, she closed her eyes for a moment. "They are fools," the Admiral said finally. "But they are powerful fools, and that makes them dangerous." "What do we do?" Lucas asked. "We do what humans have always done," Admiral Martin replied. "We adapt. We learn. We become stronger." Back on Earth, in an underground facility hidden beneath a mountain range that was not on any official map, Admiral Martin called an emergency meeting. 12 of Earth's most powerful leaders entered the room. The president was there. The military commanders were there. The heads of Earth's space programs were there. Martin stood at the head of the table and spoke words that would change everything. "The Galactic Council has made their position clear. They do not see us as equals. They see us as children who need to be controlled. We can accept this, or we can show them what a mistake that was. I propose that we withdraw from every treaty, every single one, and then we start doing what we should have been doing all along." One of the leaders leaned forward. "You want to start a war?" "No," Admiral Martin said. "I want to make sure they understand that they made a mistake. And the only way they will ever understand that is if we stop asking for their permission and start taking what is rightfully ours." The vote took 3 minutes. 12 votes in favor, 0 votes against. On the space station, Lucas Hayes received the message from Earth. His orders were clear. Tomorrow morning, he would stand before the Galactic Council and deliver a message that would shake the foundations of galactic politics. Earth was withdrawing from every treaty, every trade agreement, every protocol. As of that moment, humanity would operate independently. That night, Lucas did not sleep. He prepared the statement that would change everything. He thought about the laughter in the council chamber. He thought about the dismissive words and the mocking gestures. Tomorrow, they would understand. Tomorrow, the galaxy would learn that dismissing humanity had been the biggest mistake the Galactic Council had ever made. The Galactic Council chamber was packed. Word had spread that Earth's ambassador would make an important announcement, and representatives from observer stations across the galaxy had gathered to watch. The tension in the air was thick enough to feel. Everyone knew that humans did not typically request emergency speaking time. Something was different. Something was wrong. Lucas Hayes walked into the chamber with his head high. He no longer looked like a man asking for permission. He looked like a man who had made a decision and intended to see it through. The other ambassadors noticed the change immediately. The Xerillian representative leaned toward the Alterian collective member. The Corellian Dominion commander straightened in his seat. Something was about to happen. The council chairman, an ancient being from a species whose name humans had never been able to pronounce correctly, granted Lucas the floor. "I stand before this council today to inform you of Earth's decision," Lucas said. His voice was clear and steady. There was no emotion in it, no pleading, no hope. Just facts. Just truth. Effective immediately, Earth is withdrawing from all treaties with the Galactic Council. All trade agreements, all protocols, all mutual defense pacts, all scientific cooperation arrangements. Every single one. We are no longer bound by any council decision. The chamber erupted. Ambassadors shouted. Representatives stood up from their seats. The Xerillian made a sound that was almost like a shriek. The Alterian collective's crystalline forms began shifting rapidly, a sign that the being was experiencing strong emotion. The council chairman pounded his massive fist on the table, calling for order. It took 3 minutes before the room settled down enough for anyone to speak clearly. "Ambassador Hayes," the chairman said, his voice shaking with anger. "What is the meaning of this? What provocation could possibly justify such an action?" Lucas stepped forward. He activated a display screen behind him. Images began to appear. They were specifications, schematics, technical diagrams showing systems, engines, weapons, shields. Documents that had never been shared with the Galactic Council. "This is what you do not know about humanity," Lucas said. "This is what you have been ignoring while you laughed at us in this chamber." The first image showed a propulsion system. It was elegant in its design, advanced, far more advanced than anything the Council had been shown. "We discovered faster than light travel 40 years ago," Lucas continued. "Not 3 years ago. 40 years. We kept it secret while we studied your civilization, while we learned how you operate, while we understood what we were dealing with." The next image showed a weapon system. It was sleek, efficient, and clearly designed with deadly precision. "We have been conducting military research for 30 years. Our weapons technology is not based on your designs. We did not copy you. We improved on concepts you abandoned hundreds of years ago." The Corellian commander stood up. "This is a threat. These are weapons. You are threatening this council." "I am not threatening anyone," Lucas replied calmly. "I am explaining why dismissing us was a mistake. You assumed we were primitive because we had only been in space for a short time. You assumed we were weak because our ships appeared simple. You assumed we were ignorant because we asked questions. You made assumptions instead of gathering facts." Lucas activated another series of displays. Ship designs appeared. Massive vessels, dreadnoughts that made the Council's own warships look small and outdated. Earth has built 12 of these in secret. We have 40 supporting vessels. We have research stations on 17 different worlds that the Galactic Council does not know exist. We have established trade networks with species that the Council has lost contact with. We have created technology that will make the Council's current systems obsolete within 5 years. The Alterian collective member chimed with what sounded like anger and fear mixed together. "Why are you telling us this?" The chairman demanded. "Because," Lucas said, "Earth is tired of begging. We are tired of being treated like children. We are tired of species that have been lazy for thousands of years, looking down on a species that has accomplished in 50 years what took you thousands of years to achieve. You ridiculed us. You mocked us. You voted to restrict us. And that was your mistake." He paused, letting his words sink in. "I am telling you this because you need to understand something. You do not get to decide what humanity does anymore. You do not get to vote on our expansion. You do not get to restrict our movement through space. Those days are over. The Xerillian ambassador made a threatening gesture. Your arrogance will cost you, human. No, Lucas replied. Your arrogance cost you. You had the chance to see us as equals. You had the chance to treat us with respect. Instead, you treated us with contempt. And now you will learn to respect us through a different method. Lucas turned off the display screen. Earth's Space Force is mobilizing as we speak. Our vessels will be leaving Earth's orbital zone within the hour. We will be traveling through every major space lane. We will be establishing trading posts in areas the Council has claimed. We will be conducting scientific research without asking permission. We will be exploring and expanding with no restrictions. The Council chairman tried to speak, but Lucas continued. You can choose to accept this peacefully, or you can choose to resist. But I warn you, the Council's combined military strength is no longer sufficient to stop us. We have counted. We have calculated. We have studied your weapons. And we have built better ones. He looked around the chamber, making eye contact with each of the major representatives. This is not a threat. This is a statement of fact. The era of Earth accepting restrictions is over. Lucas walked away from the speaking position. He did not wait for dismissal. He did not wait for response. He simply walked toward the exit. The Xerillian ambassador tried to call him back. Lucas did not stop. He did not even acknowledge the call. He simply left the chamber. Behind him, chaos. The Council descended into arguments. The Krillian Dominion was calling for military action. The Alterian Collective was trying to organize a coalition. The smaller species were panicking, trying to figure out if they should take sides, but Lucas did not hear any of it. He was already on his way to the Earth Embassy on the station. Back on Earth, Admiral Victoria Martin received the signal. All systems activated. All orders confirmed. The time had come. In hidden shipyards, beneath the oceans and underground, in facilities that did not exist on any official registry, massive doors opened. Ships began to rise. Metal and composite materials that humanity had been developing for decades were finally seeing their true purpose. The first of the 12 dreadnoughts emerged from its construction bay. It was a beautiful ship in a brutal sort of way. It did not look like any other warship in known space. Its lines were different. Its design was based on principles that no other civilization had fully developed. It moved through space with a grace that belied its devastating power. As the ship cleared Earth's orbital zone and engaged its main engines, Admiral Martin watched from her command center. Around her, officers worked at their stations, monitoring systems, confirming positions, preparing for what was coming next. All vessels are launching, a young officer reported. We have successful deployment of 12 primary dreadnoughts, 40 supporting craft, and 230 escort fighters. Engage all course headings, Admiral Martin commanded. Send them to every major trade lane. I want the Galactic Council to know we are coming. I want them to see our ships. I want them to understand that we are not asking for permission anymore. The ships moved through space toward the lanes that had been closed to them, toward the routes that had been denied, toward freedom and independence. Lucas Hayes stood in the Earth Embassy, watching the live feed from Earth's Space Force. He saw the ships rising. He saw them moving outward. He saw the moment when the first human vessel entered a space lane that the Council had forbidden to them. On his communication device, the first reports were coming in from observers across the galaxy. Every civilization was seeing the ships. Every network was broadcasting the images. Every species in known space was learning the same thing at almost the same moment. Humanity had arrived, and they were no longer asking permission. The shock waves from Earth's announcement spread through known space like ripples across water. Every civilization, every species, every independent colony and trading station received the news within hours. The humans had withdrawn from the Council. The humans had revealed hidden military strength. The humans were moving through space with no restrictions. On the Krillian Dominion's flagship, Commander Torvik watched the tracking screens with cold intensity. The humans were exactly where they said they would be. Their ships were exactly as advanced as they had claimed. The Krillian military had spent generations assuming they were the strongest force in the galaxy. That assumption was now being questioned. "Assemble a fleet," Torvik commanded. His voice was hard and emotionless. "Send them to intercept the human convoy in Sector 4. We will show these newcomers what happens when they challenge the Krillian Dominion." 3 days later, 20 Krillian warships moved into position to block a human trade convoy. The humans had sent 10 transport vessels with 4 escort fighters. It was a clear mismatch. The Krillians had superior numbers, superior experience, and superior firepower. Or at least, that is what they believed. Captain Derek Hammond stood on the bridge of his ship, the human escort vessel Northern Star. He was a young man, barely 40, with the kind of calm that came from knowing your ship and knowing your crew. Behind him, 3 other human fighters maintained formation with his own vessel. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, 20 Krillian warships have moved into our path. They are hailing us. They demand that we change course immediately. Derek looked at the tactical display. He could see the Krillian ships. He could see how they were arranged. He understood their strategy. They wanted to intimidate. They wanted to show force and make humans retreat. "We do not change course," Derek said simply. "Send them a message. Tell them we are proceeding through this space as planned. Tell them we are not interested in conflict, but we will not be stopped." The message was sent. For 5 seconds, nothing happened. Then the Krillians responded with an attack warning. Derek activated his ship's weapon systems. Around him, his 3 escort fighters did the same. The 4 human vessels moved forward, directly toward the Krillian fleet. "Captain," his officer warned, "they are charging weapons. They are preparing to fire." "Tell them we have weapons charged as well," Derek responded. "Tell them to stand down or face consequences." The Krillian commander, watching from his flagship, made a decision. He launched a single energy weapon at the human convoy. It was meant to be a warning shot, a demonstration of power. The bolt of energy traveled at incredible speed toward the human ship's dot, and then something unexpected happened. The energy bolt struck the shield of Derek's ship and bounced off harmlessly. Not just deflected, not just absorbed, bounced, reflected back toward the Krillian fleet. The Krillian commander had 10 seconds to process this before the reflected bolt struck one of his own ships, disabling its shield generators. "What have you done?" The Krillian commander shouted at the human channel. "We've demonstrated that your attacks are ineffective," Derek replied calmly. "Now stand down, or we will be forced to demonstrate that our attacks are very effective." The Krillian fleet was in chaos. The commander stared at his tactical displays, trying to understand what had just happened. Their weapons had been neutralized by human shields. More than neutralized. Turned against them, the commander made a decision. He ordered a full retreat. 20 Krillian warships, equipped with technology that had been refined over thousands of years, turned and fled from 4 human fighters. The word spread through Krillian space like wildfire. The humans were not primitive. The humans were not weak. The humans were dangerous. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Human trading vessels were appearing in restricted zones. Human mining operations were being established on worlds that had been considered Council property. Human scientific teams were exploring regions that the Council had claimed, and whenever resistance formed, the humans responded with a level of technology that shocked everyone who encountered it. Their shields were superior. Their weapons were more precise. Their ships were faster. Everything the Council had assumed about human capability was being proven wrong. On the Alterian world of Crystallos, the collective leadership convened an emergency session. The Alterians had been studying human behavior patterns since Earth's announcement. What they found troubled them deeply. The humans are not attacking without provocation, one of the crystalline beings reported, its form shimmering with what the others recognized as anxiety. They are only responding to aggression. When they encounter peaceful civilian vessels, they pass without incident. When they encounter military forces, they demonstrate superiority and retreat. So they are intelligent in their expansion, another Alterian chimed. They do not wish to appear as aggressors. They wish to appear as victims who have been forced to defend themselves. This realization sent shockwaves through Alterian thinking. The humans were not just strong militarily. They were also strategic. They understood propaganda. They understood how to shape perception. They understood how to make themselves appear justified while the Council appeared tyrannical. The Venerian Collective sent an unofficial message to Earth. They requested a meeting with human representatives. Within a week, the first trade agreement between the Varians and humanity was established. Soon, other species followed. The smaller civilizations that had always felt restricted by the Council's rules began reaching out to humans. They saw an opportunity to break free from Council control. They saw an opportunity to establish relationships with a rising power. Admiral Martin watched the reports from her command center on Earth. 17 different species had now sent diplomatic inquiries. Every day, more species were requesting talks. Every day, the Council's power was diminishing. "Sir," one of her officers reported, "we have received a direct communication from the Zerillian Dominion. They are requesting a diplomatic meeting." Martin smiled. The Zerillians had been the most openly mocking of the Council members. The Zerillians had led the effort to restrict humanity. Now they were asking for negotiation. "Inform them that Earth is willing to discuss matters of mutual interest," Martin said. "But this will be a negotiation between equals. Not superior and inferior, equals." Back on the Council station, the political structure was collapsing. Emergency sessions had been called constantly for 2 weeks. Species were arguing about how to respond to the human situation. Some wanted military action. Others wanted negotiation. Still others wanted to pretend the situation did not exist. The fundamental problem was simple. No single species or even small coalition of species could challenge human military power. The combined Council forces might succeed, but the cost would be catastrophic. And even if they won such a conflict, they would devastate their own civilizations in the process. The Zerillian ambassador sat alone in his quarters, reviewing the specifications of human vessels that Lucas Hayes had displayed. He studied the engineering. He studied the design philosophy. And slowly, a terrible realization grew in his mind. The humans had shown them old designs. The weapon systems displayed were decades old. The propulsion technology had already been superseded by something better. The humans had revealed only what they needed to reveal to demonstrate superiority. The actual extent of human capability was unknown. This realization was more frightening than any direct threat. If humans were this advanced in their revealed systems, how far ahead were they in their hidden systems? What weapons did they possess that they had not shown? What technology were they still developing? The Zerillian made a decision. He would contact Admiral Martin personally. He would request a direct conversation with Earth's leadership. He would offer terms of negotiation, but he would not go to that conversation as an equal. He would go as a representative of a species that had made a mistake. A serious mistake. and he would do everything possible to repair the damage before it became irreversible. Meanwhile, human ships continued to move through space. They established trading posts. They conducted scientific research. They explored regions that had been forbidden to them. Every action was calculated. Every move was strategic. Humanity was not just claiming its place in the galaxy. Humanity was reshaping the entire structure of galactic civilization. And the species that had ridiculed them could only watch and try to adapt to a new reality they had never imagined. The negotiation chamber on neutral station Zeta 7 was designed to accommodate beings from 100 different species. The air was carefully controlled. The gravity was at a neutral setting. The furniture was adjustable to meet the needs of different physiologies. It was a place where equals could meet and conduct business as partners, rather than as conquerors and conquered. Lucas Hayes arrived early and stood at the observation window, looking out at space. Somewhere out there, human ships were conducting operations. Somewhere out there, human trading posts were being established. Somewhere out there, humanity was carving out its place in the galaxy. He heard the sound before he saw the movement. The Alterian Collective representative entered, its crystalline form gleaming in the station lights. Behind it came representatives from the Venerian Collective, the smaller Garou species, and 3 other civilizations. Each had requested meetings with Lucas personally. "Ambassador Hayes," the Alterian said, its voice like wind chimes in a soft breeze. "We come to propose a new arrangement. One that does not involve the Galactic Council." Lucas turned from the window and gestured for them to be seated. The meeting that followed lasted 8 hours. By the end, the framework for something new had been established. They called it the Earth Independent Coalition. Unlike the rigid structure of the Galactic Council, the EIC was flexible. Each species would maintain bilateral relationships with Earth and with each other. No majority vote could force a decision on unwilling parties. No powerful species could use their size to dominate smaller ones. "This is what humans would call a free market in diplomacy," Lucas explained. "Each species negotiates what is best for itself. No one is forced into agreements they do not want." The representatives liked the idea. More importantly, they understood what it meant. It meant that species that had felt trapped by the Council's decisions now had an alternative. It meant that humanity was offering liberation, not dominance. Word of the EIC framework spread quickly. Within days, 12 more species had requested membership. Within weeks, 30 species were part of the coalition. The Galactic Council still existed, but it no longer held the same power over interstellar affairs. Admiral Martin received reports of the expanding coalition with satisfaction. Earth's military was no longer just a weapon of defense. It was a tool that had reshaped galactic politics. "Sir," one of her officers reported, "we have received a direct message from the Krillian Dominion. Commander Torvik is requesting a personal meeting with you." Martin smiled thinly. The Krillians, who had tried to block human expansion, were now asking for negotiation. The galaxy was learning that dismissing humanity had consequences. The meeting took place on a neutral platform, with advanced security systems ensuring that neither party could gain advantage from the arrangement. Torvik was a massive being, nearly 7 feet tall, with muscle definition that suggested strength and power. But his expression showed respect, not the contempt that had been common when humans first arrived in space. "Admiral Martin," Torvik said, his voice careful and deliberate, "the Krillian Dominion wishes to establish terms of coexistence with Earth." "Coexistence suggests equality," Martin replied. "Are you prepared to treat with Earth as an equal civilization?" Torvik's jaw tightened slightly, but he nodded. "The Krillian Dominion respects strength. Humanity has demonstrated strength. We accept that Earth is no longer subordinate to Council authority. We wish to establish a treaty that guarantees non-aggression and defines boundaries for our respective territories. Martin considered this. The Krillians controlled a massive portion of space. A formal non-aggression treaty would give both civilizations security and allow them to develop without constant threat of conflict. "We will establish boundaries," Martin said, "but we will not recognize council-drawn lines. We will establish our own borders through negotiation. Earth territory will expand into what has been called neutral space. Krillian territory will remain as currently defined. Neither side will cross these lines without invitation." Torvik made a gesture that suggested agreement. "And what of the council?" he asked. "The council can continue to exist," Martin said, "but its authority over non-member species ends. Earth will not rejoin. Earth will conduct affairs through the EIC and through direct bilateral relationships." The treaty between Earth and the Krillian Dominion was finalized 3 days later. It was the first of many bilateral treaties that would reshape galactic structure. Each new treaty reinforced the reality that the Galactic Council no longer held supreme authority. Back on Earth, the scientific community was advancing at an accelerated pace. Human researchers were working with Alterian scientists to develop new propulsion systems. Human engineers were collaborating with Venerian experts to create improved mining technology. Human doctors were sharing medical knowledge with species that had never had access to such information before. The economic benefits for Earth were enormous, but there was something more valuable happening. Humanity was proving through its actions what it had claimed through its military strength. Humans were worth being treated as equals. A young engineer named Robert Collins was working on a joint project with the Alterian Collective. He had never imagined as a child on Earth that he would one day be collaborating with an alien species to advance understanding of energy systems. He worked 12 hours a day, stayed up nights thinking about problems, and felt more fulfilled than he had ever felt in his life. "Your species adapts quickly," the Alterian researcher told him one evening as they studied their latest prototype. "We've always had to," Robert replied. "Earth is a harsh place." Humanity learned early on that adaptation means survival. The Alterian made a sound that Robert had learned to recognize as thoughtful agreement. "Your species will go far," it said. "You have strength. You have intelligence. But more importantly, you have hunger. You wish to grow. You wish to learn. You wish to become more than you were." This is what the Council did not understand. They thought you were simple because you were young. They did not realize that youth combined with hunger creates something unstoppable. Lucas Hayes received a final message from the remaining members of the Galactic Council. They requested his presence for one final meeting. He arrived expecting confrontation, but what he found was something different. The council members were sitting in their usual positions, but the power that had once filled the chamber seemed to have drained away. "Ambassador Hayes," the council chairman said, his voice weary, "we recognize that the council's era of universal authority has ended. We accept this reality. We wish to discuss how the council and the Earth Independent Coalition can coexist." Lucas stood before them, and for a moment he felt a strange mixture of emotions. Satisfaction that his mission had succeeded. Compassion for the species that had once been so powerful but now had to accept diminishment. Determination that Earth would use its new position with responsibility, not arrogance. "The Council will continue to exist," he said, "but as an organization that operates through consensus rather than through forced compliance. Species will be part of the Council because they choose to be, not because they are forced to be. The EIC will offer an alternative to those who wish more independence. And humanity?" The Xerillian ambassador asked quietly. "Humanity will lead by example," Lucas replied. "We have shown that we will not accept dismissal or restriction. But we will also show that we use our strength with responsibility. We will protect those who align with us. We will trade fairly with those who wish to trade. We will explore space without conquest. This is what humans mean when we say we are equals. The council session ended with quiet acknowledgement rather than dramatic conclusion. The age of the Galactic Council's absolute authority was over. A new age had begun, one where Earth stood not as a supplicant seeking permission, but as a civilization that had claimed its own destiny. Admiral Martin stood in her observation room, looking down at Earth, the blue world that had sent humanity to the stars. She thought about the humans who had built the ships, designed the weapons, negotiated the treaties. She thought about what it meant that a species that had been dismissed so thoroughly had not responded with conquest or subjugation, but with the establishment of a system more just and more equitable than the one that had preceded it. We did this right, she said quietly to herself, in all the spaces between the stars. Human ships moved freely. Where once they had been confined and restricted, they now operated with the respect of peers. The ridiculed newcomers had become architects of a new galactic order. 1 year after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the first summit of the Earth Independent Coalition took place on a new station built in neutral space. The station had been constructed by a joint effort of 10 different species, a symbol of cooperation rather than dominance. It was called Unity Station. Lucas Hayes walked through the corridors of the station toward the main assembly chamber. Around him, representatives from 37 different civilizations moved with purpose. Some were species he had never encountered in the Galactic Council. Others were species that had left the Council to join the EIC. All of them walked with the understanding that they were here as partners, not as subordinates. The assembly chamber was vast and beautiful. Representatives were seated in a circular arrangement, no position given preference over any other. This was how the EIC operated. No species was more important than another. No civilization had the right to dictate to another. As Lucas took his position, he reviewed the agenda for the summit. There were questions about resource distribution, scientific collaboration, trade standards, and defense protocols. But unlike the Galactic Council meetings, these discussions would not be decided by majority vote imposed on minorities. These would be discussions between willing partners, seeking solutions that benefited everyone. Admiral Victoria Martin was also present, though not in an official capacity. She attended as an observer, showing that Earth's military leadership supported the diplomatic process. Since leaving the Council, Martin had taken on a new title, Commander of Earth's Galactic Defense Force. Her job was no longer to threaten or intimidate, but to protect the EIC from external threats and to ensure that no species attempted to return to the old model of dominance through coercion. The summit lasted 6 days. During that time, several major agreements were finalized. A shared defense protocol was established, allowing any member species to call on others for assistance if they faced external aggression. A scientific collaboration framework was created, enabling researchers from different species to work together on projects that benefited everyone. Trade standards were set that treated all species fairly, regardless of their size or military power. On the 3rd day of the summit, something remarkable happened. A distinguished scientist from the Alterian Collective addressed the assembly. Dr. Kale, whose crystalline form sparkled under the station lights, stood before the representatives. "We have gathered to discuss how our civilizations can work together," Kale said. "But I wish to acknowledge something that I believe is important. 1 year ago, the species represented in this chamber were fragmented. Some of us feared the Krillian dominion. Some of us felt restricted by the Galactic Council. Some of us had no voice in galactic affairs. And then humanity arrived and changed everything." Kale made a gesture that suggested thoughtful contemplation. The humans did not change things through conquest. They did not change things through force of arms alone. They changed things by refusing to accept the old order. They changed things by demonstrating that a species could be different. And now, because of that courage, we have the opportunity to build something better. The assembly fell silent. A standing ovation began, from the Venerian representatives and spread through the chamber until all civilizations were honoring both the Alterians' words and the example that humanity had set. Lucas felt his chest tighten with emotion. This was not what he had expected 1 year ago when he walked into that final council session to deliver This was not what he had expected 1 year ago when he walked into that final council session to deliver this withdrawal message. After the summit, Lucas found himself in a private discussion with representatives from the Alterian collective, the Venerian civilization, and several other species. They had a proposal for him. "We wish for you to take on a new role," the Alterian representative said. "We wish for you to lead the EIC Diplomatic Council." Lucas shook his head. "I cannot do that," he said. "Earth has already demonstrated enough influence. If I lead the council, it will appear that humans control the EIC. Then what do you propose?" the Venerian asked. "A rotation," Lucas replied. "A different species leads the council each year. This way, every civilization has equal voice. Every species knows that eventually its turn will come to guide the coalition's direction. This is true equality." The species discussed his proposal. They saw the wisdom in it. They agreed that rotation of leadership was the most just system. Within days, the proposal became official EIC policy. Earth's position in the galaxy was now more secure than ever, but not because Earth dominated others. It was secure because humanity had become trusted. Other species understood that Earth would not abuse power. Earth had multiple opportunities to become the sole authority figure in the EIC, and each time, humans had chosen partnership over dominance. Admiral Martin returned to Earth to oversee the next phase of human expansion. The human military no longer needed to prove its superiority. Instead, it could focus on protecting commerce, supporting scientific missions, and maintaining security. A new generation of human military officers was being trained with a different philosophy than the one that had guided the warriors before them. Captain Derek Hammond, who had faced down the Krillian fleet in neutral space, was now teaching a class of young human fighter pilots. "Our weapons are powerful," he told them, "and you will learn to use them with precision. But the greatest weapon we have is the trust of other civilizations. They trust us because we have shown that we use our strength with responsibility. Remember this. A weapon is only valuable if its threat is credible. But a civilization is only great if others choose to be part of it." The students understood. They had grown up knowing that humanity was not alone in the galaxy. They had never experienced the isolation that had defined Earth's earlier history. For them, being part of galactic civilization was normal. Being treated as equals was expected. On Earth, Lucas Hayes stood in his office, looking at a wall display that showed the location of every human installation in space. Trading posts, research stations, mining operations, settlement colonies. Each one represented the freedom that humanity had claimed through courage and determination. A message arrived on his communication device. It was from the Xerillian ambassador. They wished to discuss a joint scientific project that might revolutionize understanding of quantum mechanics. The Xerillians had once mocked human intelligence. Now they wanted to collaborate with human scientists. Lucas approved the project immediately. 5 years after Earth's withdrawal from the Galactic Council, the old council no longer held any real power. Some species remained members out of tradition, but the meaningful authority had shifted to the EIC and to bilateral relationships between individual civilizations. Humanity had become one of the most respected, civilizations in known space. Not through conquest, but through the simple act of refusing to accept diminishment. Young humans now traveled to alien worlds as researchers, traders, and explorers. Alien species now looked to Earth for leadership in science, technology, and diplomacy. On a night when Earth was fully visible through the observation window of his quarters, Lucas reflected on the past 5 years. He thought about the Galactic Council chamber, about the mocking words, about the dismissive votes. He thought about the moment when he had decided that Earth would withdraw from the system that had rejected it. And he realized something important. The other species had not truly underestimated humanity's military capability. They had underestimated humanity's courage. They had not understood that a species which had survived on a harsh world would not break when faced with ridicule. They had not understood that humans who had overcome every challenge on Earth would not accept being told they were too primitive to explore the galaxy. The most powerful thing humans had brought to the galactic community was not their weapons or their technology. It was their refusal to accept limits. It was the human characteristic of pushing beyond boundaries and refusing to accept that something could not be done. Admiral Martin, now in her 70s, attended a ceremony where the new Galactic Defense Force headquarters was being officially opened. The building was designed by a joint team of human and alien architects. It stood as a symbol of what cooperation could achieve. As she walked through the facility, she saw human soldiers working alongside warriors from 5 other species. She saw research facilities where scientists from different civilizations were solving problems together. She saw a future that was more hopeful and more just than the one that had existed before. A young human officer approached her and saluted. "Admiral," the officer said, "I wanted to thank you for what you did. What you and Ambassador Hayes did. Without it, I never would have had the chance to see the galaxy like this." Martin smiled. "We did what was necessary," she said. "We showed them that we could not be dismissed. But more importantly, we showed them that being treated fairly was possible. That's what the galaxy needed most." As the sun set on Earth, watched by billions of humans who knew that their species no longer stood alone in the darkness, Lucas Hayes stood at his window and looked up at the stars. Each star represented possibilities. Each point of light was a world, a civilization, a chance for human connection and growth. The council that had ridiculed Earth was gone. The treaties that had restricted humanity were broken.